now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good day, good morning, good evening, or good morning, good day, good evening, whatever order you want me to say it. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by, you guessed it, if you've been watching and listening to this show. I mean, we've been on for the last 21 years. If you've been watching or listening to it anytime, you know I've been hawking my book. So, get yourself a copy of Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. It's available right now. Where all good books are sold, you can get a copy right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit Amazon.com. That's your best bet. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by BillyCBoxing.com. Check it out. You can watch replays of this show. You can also listen to the podcast of the most recent one. And, of course, you can get the latest and greatest boxing news along with Dax Khan's column. So check out BillyCBoxing.com. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame 2024 class and banquet, which I'm part of. And I'm so proud to have been selected for this year's inductees. And I want you to join me, because if it wasn't for you guys, especially, listen, don't get me wrong. It's not like I don't want the new viewers or listeners to join us, but especially to all you guys and gals who have been following us and have been loyal to us for all these years. Please try and make it. I would love to have you there and share it with me, because you guys are part of it too. And for all the information, just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the funny-looking banner of me that my man Jeremy C., yes, the infamous Jeremy C., made up. But if you click it, it'll take you to where you can get all the information for tickets, the location. I know it's going to be at Russo's on the Bay in Howard Beach, New York, and it's fantabulous. I've heard many, many things about the place. I haven't had the privilege to eat there yet, but it's going to be quite the shindig. So please join me and all the rest of the 2024 inductees and some other people. Like, I'll tell you, my man Randy Gordon is going to be there. And I know if you're a boxing fan, you know who Randy Gordon is. And speaking of Randy Gordon, I'm going to be a guest on his radio show tomorrow. It's called At the Fights, and it runs from 3 to 5 p.m. It's on Sirius Radio, Sirius XM, I should say, on channel 156. I'll get back to that a little bit later in the show, but mark it down, because I am excited to be part of his show as a guest, I mean. But anyway, give a shout out to everybody in the chat room. My man Joel is there, and love it. And if you're tuning in now, I know we went on a couple minutes early. If you're tuning in, come on into this chat room. I want to know your thoughts. My man Coach just popped in. I want to know your thoughts. My question of the week is Turki Alalshikh and Saudi Arabia. They seem to be the place for boxing right now. How long do you think it's going to last? I mean, boxing has traditionally followed the money, right? And His Excellency is really putting on some great events. I got to say, I love them. And, well, you know what? How long do you think it's going to last? How long? Anyway, let's get into it. Hey, thanks for the accolades. Love it. Congratulations. Hey, listen, you're not too far away. No one's too far away to join us on September 15th. At Russo's on the Bay, because we have these things called transportation. You can fly, you can make it a weekend, make it a holiday. Come on out, spend a day or two. As a matter of fact, it's not that close to me. Even though I'm in New York, I'm in upstate New York. I'm about 4 hours away. So I'm probably going to be spending the night. And by the way, if you are planning on coming and you do need to spend the night, give me a call, because I'd like us all to spend the night at the same place and make this a weekend. You know what I mean? But anyway, hey, let's cover some fights that took place. Last week, speaking of Turki Alalshikh in Saudi Arabia, we had a big, the 5 versus 5. Well, they left the S out. 5v5, where you had, in my opinion, two of the top promoters in the sport of boxing, both from the UK. And if you've been watching or listening to the show any length of time, you know that I'm a big fan of the UK boxing scene. Well, they put on yet another one. And in the main event, Zhilei Zhang took out Deontay Wilder. The official time was 1 minute and 51 seconds of the 5th round. I broke down and predicted 3 fights of that night. And not that I'm patting myself on the back, but I got 2 of the 3 right. I got this one wrong. I picked Deontay Wilder. I was rooting for Zhang. Here's the thing, all right? I know that there's some big Deontay Wilder fans out there, and I want to call a spade, and I've been saying this since day one. If anybody has been watching or following this show, and the term or the subject of Deontay Wilder comes up, my opinion has always been the same. The man possessed freakish punching power in his right hand, okay? Freakish punching power, and it served him well over his career. There's no question about it. I mean, we watched many devastating knockouts by Deontay Wilder. But at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder was a product of great management. They moved him perfectly. They put him in with the right opponents that basically let him knock them out. And I'm not saying nobody lets anybody knock you out, but their skill set versus Deontay's, they stood right in front of him, and he threw his wild punches and he knocked people out. What we've been witnessing in his last 5 fights, 3 of which were against Tyson Fury, is that when he fights against somebody with talent, he loses. And the reason he loses is simple, boys and girls. Number 1, he has no footwork, none. He's like a baby deer learning how to walk, or a baby horse that just was born, and the first times they stand up. That's the way he moves in the ring. Number 2, he's not that smart. He doesn't have that ring smarts. He just doesn't. Number 3, the man has no defense, 0. And most importantly, number 4, he has no jab. If he used his jab against Zhang, he would have won. Zhang was no speed demon either. Zhang plotted like Herman Munster towards him. The first shot that stunned Deontay Wilder, to me, it wasn't a punch that, even though Deontay Wilder has been criticized for his suspect chin, myself included, all right? That first shot that he landed, I believe, stunned him, either broke his nose or look on his face. He did this. But here's what he did, boys and girls. He did the worst thing you can do in boxing. He turned his back on Zhang. And credit to Zhang for taking advantage of it. And he turned around and gave them that last shot. It was a roundhouse almost punch that landed square on Deontay's face and put him to sleep. End of story. End of story. And remember, boys and girls, when you turn your back on your opponent, a referee could wave the fight off. It's an indication that you're quitting. I don't for a minute think that Deontay was quitting. I think his lack of skill caught up with him in his last 5 fights, and the end result was that brutal knockout by Zhang this past Saturday. And I hope that Deontay Wilder does not step in the ring again, because that invincibility, that feeling of invincibility that he had before he fought Tyson Fury, and then, of course, Joseph Parker, and then now Zhang, is gone. And, he's what, I hate to say it, what you would call a proverbial punching bag. You're going to see same thing. Look, Mike Tyson. When Mike Tyson lost for the first time, how many fighters already lost before the first bell rang? Before they even stepped foot in the ring, they were so intimidated by Mike Tyson. After the Buster Douglas loss, different scenario. It seemed every fight that Tyson was in was a tough one. When that loss happens, especially a knockout loss, other fighters can feed off that. And Deontay Wilder, I think, needs to retire. I know he's talked about it. I haven't heard any official retirement announcements from him, but I hope he does. He's made, I would think, he's made a ton of money, and he should be financially set. And his goal of taking care of his daughter and the rest of his family should all have been met, and it will continue to meet. That's my recommendation. And Zhang, I'm not. I know he's got pop, but I mean, Joseph Parker showed, what movement and hand speed can do to him. So in any event, in addition to that fight, one of the other, another one I picked right, even though I picked Wilder wrong, was Daniel Dubois stopped 57 seconds of round 8. Philip Hrgovic, who dropped to 17-1, his first loss, and 14 knockouts. Daniel Dubois won by stoppage, 21-2 now with 20 knockouts. Look, here's the deal with that fight. Daniel Dubois, I want everybody to keep in mind that Daniel Dubois is only 26 years old. He had a fast track to boxing because of his punching power. He clearly has devastating punching power. In his last couple of fights, he's improved. He looks a hell of a lot better. He's got a lot of confidence. And remember, people were writing him off. They were writing him off before, not this fight, but before the last fight. But here's my thing about Daniel Dubois. He still has a long way to go. And they're talking about putting him in, possibly with Anthony Joshua, whatever. The truth of the matter is the guy needs to work on his defense. He took a lot of hellacious shots from Hrgovic. I mean, there was no doubt about that. I credit his chin. And again, when we had that discussion a couple of weeks ago, what is the definition of a good chin? Is it somebody that gets knocked out? Or is that's a bad chin? Is it somebody who gets knocked down and gets up, or is it somebody that doesn't go down at all? Daniel Dubois took some big shots from Philip Hrgovic in that fight, and it didn't slow him down. Just because you're withstanding those shots, they're still doing damage. He needs to get a little better defense as he moves up in the division. And let me tell you something. This is a kid to watch at 26 years old. If I was involved with his management, I would be cautious right now. I would try to get this guy a little more education in the ring, work on his defense, and quite possibly his footwork. I mean, he seemed a little flat-footed to me at times. I would fine-tune those two areas first, and then control the heavyweight division, because I think he's got the capabilities of doing that. You put him in a little too soon with a guy, in my opinion, like Anthony Joshua. I totally admit that a guy like Dubois catches up with AJ and is going to put him to sleep. There's no question about it. But AJ's got some fast hands. He's got some pop of his own, and he could put together combinations. And all of that spells disaster for a guy like Daniel Dubois. No disrespect to Hrgovic, but the truth of the matter is he wasn't that talented. Very strong power punch. He was out of gas. He was half of the problem with that fight, aside from the punches that Daniel Dubois were landing, was his own gas tank, running on fumes. So I mean, come on, let's be real, But congrats to Daniel Dubois, and I'm sure we're going to see Philip Hrgovic back again. The other fight that I picked, and I'll tell you what, I got several emails after the fact that they said I was nuts about this, but I predicted Nick Ball, the wrecking ball, if you will, would win the fight against Ford. I was ringside for Ray Ford's title-winning fight. Let's just say this: the wrecking ball improved to 20-0 with a draw with 11 knockouts. Ray Ford drops his first fight in his career. He's 15-1 now with 8 KOs. It was a 12-round split decision, 115-113 for Ford, 115-113 twice for Ball. How did my scorecard end up? I hate to say it, but my scorecard had it 114-114. I scored that fight on my card as a draw. But It could have gone either way. There were a couple of close rounds, and I don't think it was a robbery of any stretch of the imagination. And I wouldn't have been saying it was a robbery if they gave it to Ford. I just think that the aggression and the fact that the punches landed the way they did, they just seemed, more meaningful on Nick Ball's side. Ray Ford, he's a talented fighter. It just seems that he takes a little while to get going. And when you're fighting a guy that just doesn't run out of energy, like this cat, Nick Ball, I told you guys last week. I mean, it's nonstop. This guy is coming at you nonstop. And it probably didn't help Ray Ford any when he was in some trouble in a couple of those rounds and he was running out of gas and he's slumped in his corner and he's looking over and this guy's standing up, shaking his head like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I know I don't need water, and it's like, well, what's going on? Is he human, and his skill set isn't that great, Nick Ball's. It's just the nonstop punches and he's throwing them. I mean, they're coming at you at all angles and he was finding a home with that uppercut. So congrats to Nick Ball. And then the WBC middleweight eliminator fight, Hamez Shiraz improved to 20-0 with 16 knockouts when he scored an 11th round stoppage over Austin Williams, who drops to 16-1. 45 seconds was the official time in that. This was a good fight. I mean, I thought Williams was going to stop Shiraz, who looked like maybe it was going to be over early. I mean, he was much bigger height-wise, but I thought that Williams was a little more compact, and as it turned out, Shiraz seemed to get stronger as the fight went on, and ultimately won the fight. And also in the light heavyweight division, Willie Hutchinson, he improved to 18-1 when he won a 12-round decision over Craig Richards, who drops his fourth fight in his career. He's now 18-4 with a draw and 11 KOs, 116, 112, 117, 111, and 119, 109. I'm not so sure about that particular score, but it was an entertaining fight for sure. And at the end of the night, 5 versus 5, Queensberry Promotions shut out Matchroom 10-0 with the point scoring on that one. And it was fun. And I think the two promoters enjoyed themselves. And my last point on that is, the American promoters don't have the balls to do that. And it's a shame because that brings so much to boxing. I think Oscar De La Hoya, I know Golden Boy gets a lot of grief from fans. I don't know why. I mean, Oscar as a fighter fought everybody, and as a promoter, he's done nothing but succeed with fighters. And with B-Hop with him, I mean, I think Golden Boy is a great promotional company. The other big ones is Top Rank, and they're not so inclined to work, even though they would if the right fight happened. And forget about PBC; they're a bunch of petunias. And the only other one is Don King. I'm going to be talking about Adrian Broner's last stand, which is taking place tomorrow. And Golden Boy. Speaking of Golden Boy, they're having a fight card up at the Turning Stone, which I had every intention of being ringside. But a medical thing arose with me that I'm not going to be able to go. But the truth of the matter is I would love to see the American promoters do something like that, and then who knows? You could have a competition. English promoters going against each other till they reach a certain score, and then they would take on the American promoters who go against each other and reach a certain score. And you could have a world championship of promoters, which would be pretty cool. And that brings me back to my question today. Turki Alalshikh in Saudi Arabia seem to be the place for boxing. How long will it last? Well, if anybody can put that together, something like that, it would be him. They're getting some great shows So congrats to him. Lastly, on that card, Dmitry Bivol scored a 6-round stoppage over Malik Zanad, who was previously unbeaten. Bivol improves to 23-0. Zanad drops to 22-1. I don't know about you, but it seemed to me that Bivol was on a mission to score a stoppage, and he got it. And he it looked like he was in trouble at one point. He did drop Zanad in the first round, and then he seemed to get into that. I saw Zanad led a couple of shots, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, is this going to turn the tide?" But then Bivol, got set up his punch as well, and then he went in with aggressiveness, which he seemed to have been lacking lately. And speaking of Bivol, I when I look back at his fight against Canelo Alvarez, and I know that Turki Alalshikh said that he wants to bring Canelo and Crawford there. I mean, I was literally applauding that while I was watching that card last week, and I said to myself, man, he's the only guy that could help Canelo grow the gonads to step in the ring with Crawford. I know people think I'm crazy, but I think Crawford will beat Canelo. I don't think he's going to stop him. But Canelo, and this is why I'm remembering Bivol, because when you watch Bivol Canelo, you watch a superior boxer manhandle Canelo. And granted, Bivol's a bigger man than Crawford, but Crawford has that mean streak. Crawford has the skill set. Crawford has the hand speed. Crawford has the footwork. Canelo, I don't think he possesses that much talent. I think that his body work and his aggressiveness and his ability to counter punch and sneak in punches is great. There's no doubt about it. I'm not downplaying Canelo's abilities at all. He's a pound for pound top fighter. But certain styles make fights, like they always say. And I just think, and I would clearly bet some money on Crawford. And I believe that that's the reason Canelo won't fight him, because he knows that the style will be difficult for him to beat as well, especially after his loss against Bivol. And, he's trying to say, it won't do nothing. If I win, they'll say I beat a smaller guy. If I lose, they'll say I was, overrated or whatever. I disagree. I think Canelo's in a position where he should take on all comers. They did it in yesteryear. I mean, Stanley Ketchel fought Jack Johnson. He was a middleweight fighting, a monster in that era. In Jack Johnson, sometimes those fights are made, and you can't criticize. A true boxing fan wouldn't criticize Canelo if he lost that fight. Maybe some young rah-rah fan of today, which we know that there's a lot out, might criticize. They're so quick to say, he's a bum, but from what I hear, Canelo's turned down the money. I don't know what kind of money Turki Alalshikh has offered. His Excellency, I can never say that. Excellency, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. I went to speech class. Porky Pig was the teacher. Maybe that was the problem. But remember last week I was talking about Canelo's skull, right? The IBF ordered William Skull to fight Canelo, right? And I think it's a joke. I think it's a joke that the IBF pulls this crap. All right. They're doing it with the heavyweight division too. And even Skull's team was like, well, there's no way we're going to do that unless we get our step aside money. So it was all about the do-re mi, right? All of a sudden, Canelo's entertaining the fight. It's because, publicly, I think Turki Alalshikh put the pressure on him when he announced it publicly on the broadcast that he was, wanted to bring Crawford Canelo there. And all of a sudden, Canelo cares about the IBF title. Look, Canelo Alvarez, as well as Terence Crawford, they don't need no stinking titles, man. They don't. They don't need the titles. They need to fight the big fights that the fans want to see and that the money can be made. Let's face it. They don't call it prize fighting for nothing. These guys deserve to make the money when they can, right? But how much money can Canelo make against Skull? I mean, is it going to be a one-sided fight? What are you going to give Canelo 40 million and give Skull $1 million and everybody's going to be happy? And trust me, if there's a fight that I wouldn't pay for, it would be that one. And Canelo, his pay-per-views are always 10, $20 more than anybody else's, so I think it's a problem. I saw him in social media, on social media the other day saying, if he knocked out David Benavidez, would they say he's over the hill? Or would they say that Benavidez isn't in his prime? I mean, he's not knocking out David Benavidez. It's maybe he beats Benavidez if he's got the judges in his back pocket. But I think David Benavidez is too big, too young for him. And Canelo, I would not criticize Canelo as much as everyone else is if he doesn't fight Benavidez. But he needs to fight a guy like Crawford. And he certainly needs to fight somebody else. But he doesn't need to fight Skull. Or he can retire. I mean, whatever, But the one thing, now, if all of you that have been watching and listening to the show for a long time know that I'm not the biggest fan of Floyd Mayweather. Okay, I'm just not. I don't like. To me, he's a thug, and he glorified negativity, and it was all about the 50. And here's the thing, boys and girls, the 49-0 record that Marciano had, that Floyd Mayweather broke, was only. The issue with that record was the heavyweight division. That was the substance with the 49-0. There were many fighters. Sugar Ray Robinson, Julio Cesar Chavez. I think, what did he fight? 80 fights before he lost his first one. I mean, there was many fighters that surpassed 50-0 in years gone past. And Floyd was successful in making that 50-0 like it was the best feat ever to be accomplished in boxing. No. He retired. He quit the sport of boxing. Yes, Floyd, you quit the sport of boxing at 50-0. And now he's riding that wave. Like, that was such a feat to do. Many fighters, they stayed with the game, and ultimately they would lose. So I don't put value on 50-0 as any other weight class but heavyweight. Why do you think Larry Holmes wanted to beat that record so much? Because it was substance for the heavyweight division. Anyway, my point about Canelo is he has the nerve to say that he doesn't count Floyd Mayweather's loss, that his loss to Floyd Mayweather, because he was too young. That's such crap. Floyd beat him. End of story. I don't like Floyd, but Floyd beat Canelo. I mean, you know what? At the end of the day, it's like I always say, when trainers, they're at the podium, they're next to their fighter before the fight, they're saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we trained hard for this fight, we're ready for this fight, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to give them this and give them that. Then the fight happens and their fighter loses. Then they're back up at the post-fight show and they go, well, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't do what we were telling him. No, we win, we lose. So some other news. Excuse me, some other news. I know everybody's going to, I hope everyone's sitting down for this, and you probably already heard it, but the big fight in July, Mike Tyson against Jake Paul. I know, everyone was looking forward to it. It's been postponed. Last week I had mentioned that Mike Tyson needed some medical attention on a flight due to an ulcer flare-up. Well, apparently his doctors have recommended that he does not resume full contact training for a while. So the bottom line is that they postponed it, and we'll see when the new date's supposed to be announced by tomorrow. Mike Tyson said, my body is in better overall shape than it's been since the 90s, and I'll be back to my full scheduled training soon. Jake Paul, this may have bought you some time, but in the end, you'll still be knocked out and out of boxing for good. Here's the good one. This is from Jake Paul, and I laugh my what off about this. Jake Paul says, my fans know I don't want to face Iron Mike at anything but his best, But let there be no mistake. When he steps in with the ring with me, I'll be ready to claim my W with a sensational finish. Well, if Jake Paul really wanted to face Mike Tyson at his best, he would need to purchase a time machine because he would have to go back 20 some odd years. And it would be like Sammy Scaff. And if you've ever watched that brutal knockout of Mike Tyson knocking out Sammy Scaff before he was a world title holder, or the Trevor Burbick one sticks out in mind, or the Michael Spinks one. I mean, you could go on and on and on with the knockouts. Jake Paul is such a BS artist. It's funny. He's a great promoter, though. We got an update on Ryan Garcia. As you know, the B sample had also tested positive. This from Ryan Garcia, they said the test results from the samples of 2 supplements declared by Ryan Garcia on VADA doping control forms he signed April 19th to 20th have returned positive for the ostarine contamination. This confirms what we've constantly maintained. Ryan was a victim of supplement contamination and has never intentionally used any banned or performance-enhancing substance. Any claims to the contrary, questioning Ryan's integrity as a clean fighter, are unequivocally false and defamatory. Throughout his career, Ryan has voluntarily submitted to numerous tests, all of which were returned negative, underscoring his commitment to fair and clean competition. Additionally, multiple negative tests leading up to his fight against Haney further affirm his clean record. The ultra-low levels of ostarine detected in his samples in the billionth of a gram range, along with his clean hair sample, proves contamination rather than intentional ingestion. The recent test results reiterate this. I for one think that they should either let the fighters do whatever the hell they want with performance enhancing drugs and do what they want, or they have to conform to the test. The problem with that is the fact that they can a good cheater can whip up a batch that's not on the list and get away with it. I personally do not think that Ryan Garcia is guilty of anything other than being overweight, three pounds overweight for that fight. I also believe that he unintentionally ingested it, but that's me. I'm not part of VADA, and quite frankly, I don't care what happens. I just can't stand hearing from Bill Haney. It is what it is. Move on. Haney was out. He was outgunned that night, and I don't think it was because of the PED, the trace of it that they found. I don't, but I don't know enough about it. But in any event, they announced a world title triple header, July 20th. WBC bantamweight champ Junto Nakatani is taking on Vincent Estrabliaro on the 20th, along with WBO junior bantamweight world champion Kosi Tanaka is going against Jonathan Rodriguez, and the vacant flyweight WBO flyweight title against Ruku Kano and Anthony Alaskuga will be fighting for those 3 titles. Japan always puts on these great cards, man. They really do. It was also announced that Tim Tszyu, that was supposed to be taking on Virgil Ortiz, scheduled for Saturday, August 3rd, has been canceled due to Tszyu's cut is still not healed enough. And I'll tell you, that cut was horrendous. They should have never let that fight continue, in my opinion. Also, at the end of the fight, Willie Hutchinson on that 5v5 card put on a great performance. Well, guess what? It earned him the fight against Joshua Butasi, and the WBO has ordered a purse bid for Butasi. I'm sorry, for Butasi against Anthony Yard. But Yard had 72 hours to confirm whether he would participate. He didn't. So now the WBO has ordered the match between Willie Hutchinson and Butasi. So they have a 10 days to negotiate a deal, or that will go to purse bid. So in any event, my thoughts on my topic today about Turkey Alalshikh and Saudi Arabia seem to be the place for boxing today. How long will it last? Well, I'll tell you this. Boxing has always seemed to follow, especially heavyweight boxing, but definitely the big fights in boxing have always seemed to follow the money. You could always follow the big purses, and that's where the big fights were, right? Well, His Excellency, whoa, I said it right. His Excellency, excellent. He has been, putting on some great events. I mean, let's give him credit. All right. I, for one, would love to be able to go out there. I mean, even Teddy Atlas goes out there. But the truth of the matter is that not only is he putting on good matches, where you're having 50-50 fights, right? And that's unheard of in today's boxing, and that's what really ticks me off about some of the younger fans. They don't understand that part. They don't understand, why a boxing line, like if you're going to throw some money on it, why fighter A, you got to lay $1,500 to win 100, and then fighter B, you bet 100 and you win 300. They don't understand the reasoning behind it, because nobody's given the fighter B a chance in hell of beating fighter A. Well, that really hasn't been the case with all these cards that are showing up over in Saudi Arabia. And I love it. I think it's great for boxing. Not only do I think it's great for boxing and for the fighters, let's face it, it's great for the fighters too. They all want to go back there. They're getting bigger purses, I think it's great as fans, to watch the fights. I don't know about you. Maybe it's because I'm becoming an old man. Okay, I'm already an old man. All right. So you don't have to email me and tell me that. I'm already an old man. But the truth of the matter is this. I don't like main events coming on at midnight, 1 a.m. in the morning here. I like that I can tune on an all-day boxing event that starts at 10 o'clock in the afternoon, or if like that one, the last one we watched started late, 2 p.m. And the main event's over by 8 o'clock. I mean, I could stay up. I can watch it. I can be jacked up. I could do post-fight shows if I want, I love that. And that's what made boxing a big deal back in the day. You know why, boys and girls? Because I watched it on Wide World of Sports, Channel 7. On ABC in New York, it was Channel 7. But I mean, we were watching those fights during the day, and big fights. Muhammad Ali fought on Wide World of Sports many times. I'll never forget his fight against Jimmy Young. On ABC Wide World of Sports. It was a title fight, during the afternoon. I mean, and you get bigger audiences. Hello, it just makes more sense, for here. Now, over there, what was it, 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning by the time the main event came on? But hey, and they're still selling out. It's great. How long is it going to last? It's going to last as long as Turki Alalshikh, His Excellency, I'm nailing it now, can keep opening up his checkbook. And from what it seems, he's got pretty deep pockets, man. And they're getting world recognition. You're not seeing anything bad happen. I don't even think it's legal to drink after dark in public or something there. So you're not getting any crazy, stupid shit going on in the stands like you see in Vegas. I mean, how many of Riddick Bowe's fights ended in chaos? I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. But I think it's going to last a bit. I think that boxing's in a resurgence right now. I can't recall it being better and more entertaining than it is right now in the last several years. And I think a lot of it has to do with two things. Number one, the UK boxing scene. I'm telling you, they're not paying me to say this. I wish they were. You don't see me over in England. I wish I was. But the truth of the matter is the UK boxing scene. They know what's going on. The fans know what's going on. The fighters fight each other. We got a heavyweight fight coming up with two young heavyweights soon that it's going to be, two guys on the way up that are going to fight each other. It happens frequently. And then when the fighter loses, the fans don't bail on him, and he's back in the ring and he's fighting again. Nick Ball, look at Nick Ball. Nick Ball lost. He got a controversial draw against Ray Vargas in his fight prior to his last one when he beat Ray Ford this past weekend. That was only a couple weeks ago, a month ago, or whatever, and it was a controversial decision because he dropped Ray Vargas 2 times. Actually, I think they called it 2 times officially, but it should have been 3 knockdowns in that fight. And Ray Vargas, was landing jabs and stuff. And Nick Ball was a little wild, but at the end of the day, I mean, you knock a fighter down twice, and even if you split the other rounds, or you don't even have to split the other rounds, you still get a close decision and ended up as a draw. In the U.S., that would have, mentally ruined the fighter. He would have been sidelined for a year, and Nick Ball steps back in the ring and wins the title, takes the title from the champion, So I think as long as Turki Alalshikh and Saudi Arabia want to have boxing there, it will be there. And I think the longer it goes there, the more people are going to enjoy it and the better off the sport will be. The only thing you need now is guys like Canelo Alvarez to grow some hairs and fight the guys that everyone wants to see him fight. If he does not want to fight them and all he's doing is collecting money, maybe it's time to retire. The Mexican fans, there's a lot of Mexican fans out there that don't like Canelo because of that. Because historically, Mexican fighters pride themselves on fighting the best that's available. And then they fight him multiple times. I mean, there's so many of those fights, So anyway, all right. Look, there's a decent card this weekend, and to me, it's the last stand for Adrian Broner. Yep, that Adrian Broner. He's going to be fighting on a Don King card. It is a pay-per-view. You can get all the information about that by visiting donking.com. It's also I believe it's going to be through Thriller TV as a pay-per-view as well. It's a decent card. They lost the Cruiserweight World Championship due to a cut in sparring with McGillian. But they have the main event, which is Adrian Broner going up against Blair Cobbs in a welterweight fight. I'll get to that. But there's another interesting heavyweight fight on that card. And to me, these two fights are make it worth it. You got Michael Hunter going up against Cassius Chaney. Now, Michael Hunter, he's got a record of 22 wins, 1 loss, with 16 of his wins coming by knockout. His 1 loss was actually a unanimous decision to Alexander Usyk back in 2017. So, I mean, you can't really criticize him for that. He's got 2 draws. He's got a split decision draw in 2019 against Alexander Povetkin, who was still, viable back then. And he had a split decision draw against Jerry Forrest back in 2021. Aside from that, his best wins, it was really, I think his best win was his last fight. He stopped Ignacio Esparza in March of this past year in his last fight. He also stopped Mike Wilson, in 2021. And this is another important thing. He beat by stoppage currently ranked Martin Bacoli, who is currently ranked number 1 by the WBA, number 10 by the WBC, number 11 by the WBO, and number 14 by the IBF. He was cut pretty bad in that fight, Michael Hunter, but Bacoli injured his shoulder, and he won by stoppage. Michael Hunter did by stoppage in the 10th round. That was Bacoli's only loss. Now, when you look at Michael Hunter, he's rated number 12 by the computer. WBA has him ranked at number 8. And WBC, IBF, and WBO do not have him ranked at all. He's fought 144 rounds in his career with a almost 73% knockout ratio. He's 35 years old. He's 6'2", orthodox fighter with just about an 80-inch reach. Now, he steps in the ring with Cassius Chaney, who's got a record of 23-1. With 16 of his wins coming by knockout. So both men go into this fight with the same amount of KOs. And he's got one loss. Like Michael Hunter, it was a decision loss, but his was a split decision loss to George Arias back in 2021 in New York. George Arias always did well in New York. He's ranked number 39 by the computer. But the WBA has him ranked at number 7. That's a flag for me. He's not rated at all in the WBC, IBF, or the WBO. He's got a just about 70% knockout ratio. He's 36 years old, a year older than Hunter. And he's substantially bigger at 6'6". He's out of Connecticut. His best wins, well, in 2023, he did a 7th round stoppage over Trevor Bryant. He also beat a couple of tough gatekeepers throughout his career, Jason Bergman and Chauncey Welliver, both by stoppage. But aside from that, no big names jump out at me. It's a toss-up fight for me. I think that the size difference with Chaney is going to help him. The fact that Michael Hunter is coming off arguably his best win over Esparza, you would think that, he's the guy. But something's telling me that Chaney is going to come out on top in this one. So I'm going to go with Cassius Chaney. And I'm kind of doing this from my man Alex Papali. He's from Connecticut. Chaney's from Connecticut. One of my buddies and one of the greatest fighters, I think, of all time, and should be in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Marlon Starling. He's from Connecticut. So, and Iceman Scully's from Connecticut, a good friend of mine. So, in lieu of the fact that Connecticut, I'm going with the Connecticut guy. So, now the main event on this card. Woo! Oh, no, sorry. Blair Cobbs, is going up against Adrian Broner. Now, Blair Cobbs, he's quite the story. I got to see him and meet him for the first time when in 2019 when he fought Carlos Caventes at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. He was on a Canelo undercard that I was ringside for, and he won that fight via a 6th round stoppage. He was down in the first round in this fight, but he's a likable kid, real likable. He's got the body to be decent. Okay, he's got some good wins. He beat Brad Solomon, who was a major player at one point. He stopped him in the 5th round back in 2021, and he also beat Alexa Roca. I'm sorry, that's his loss to Alexa Roca, and he beat Maurice Hooker in 2022. That was his last fight in August of 2022. So he's several months shy of 2 years being outside of the ring. He's got himself a new trainer, but you wonder about being out of the ring 2 years and going right into the ring with a fighter like Adrian Broner. Blair Cobbs is 16-1 with 10 knockouts. His one loss, like I said, Alexis Rocha, which he was stopped. He's 5'11". He's a southpaw. He's not ranked in any of his last fight in any of the sanctioning bodies or the computer because his last fight was so long ago. He's improved, and he's got the skill set. And if anybody has ever gotten in the head of Broner, it's him. Now, when I look at Adrian Broner, let me start off by saying this. The guy was a 4-time former world champion, 4 different weight classes. He was a former welterweight, junior welterweight, lightweight, and junior lightweight champ. And in the lighter weights, you could make an argument that he was well on his way of being one of the best of all time. Listen, my opinion, this is just my opinion. He started hanging with Floyd Mayweather, just like Errol Spence did, just like Tank Davis did, just like Garcia did with all of the cheating now. It's not a good thing to hang out with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, although he was always able to stay straight and narrow in terms of conditioning and not indulging in things other than women. These other guys were not as mentally as strong, and they all failed. Adrian Broner has developed, a drinking problem. He was puffed up to, rumor had it, almost 200 pounds. But he is taking his fight serious. And when you go back and look at his record in the lighter divisions, I mean, he beat really all the best fighters of the time. I mean, listen to these names. Daniel Ponce de Leon was a great fighter. He beat him. He beat Jason Litzau, knocked him out in 1 round. Jason Litzau was a tough guy. Elroy Perez. Elroy Perez was an up-and-coming fighter, undefeated when he fought Broner. And Broner took care of him in 4 rounds. The guy had hand speed. He had it all. Vincent Escobedo beat him. He also has wins against Antonio DeMarco, Gavin Rees, Paulie Malignaggi he beat. He beat John Molina. He's got losses against some big names, Sean Porter and Marcos Maidana. He had problems with weights. He fought and beat Ashley Theophane, but he lost his WBA junior welterweight title on the scales, but won the fight. He lost to Mikey Garcia. He had a draw with Jesse Vargas. And the fight that I just will never get out of my mind is the total beatdown he took from Manny Pacquiao. I actually thought that was his last fight, but, he's fought twice since then, once in 21 when he won a 12-round decision over Giovanni Santiago. And he also fought once last year in June of 23 when he won a 10-round decision over Bill Hutchinson. He's, like I said, 35 wins, 4 losses. He's never been stopped. He's got 1 draw, 24 of his wins coming by knockout. The computer ranks him at number 30. The WBA has him at number 10. He's not rated at all by the WBC, IBF, or WBO. He's 34 already. He's an orthodox fighter, 5'6", almost a 69% knockout ratio. Got way more rounds, 257 pro rounds versus Blair Cobb's 92. Let me tell you this. If Adrian Broner does not win this fight, and don't get me wrong, if I was picking this fight based on, personality and who I personally like better, I would be going with Blair Cobbs 100%. But I don't see Blair Cobbs having a chance against Adrian Broner. If Adrian Broner is, 50% of his, top level that he was back in the day, he's gonna beat Blair Cobbs. I think that he actually likes Blair Cobbs. I think they get along, but I also think Blair Cobbs got into his head. I don't know if you saw any of the promotional stuff, but he made a puppet. He had a professional puppet made up that looks like Adrian Broner. And, I don't know if that's going to help or hurt Blair, but at the end of the day, I'm picking Adrian Broner to win this fight. And let's just keep it in perspective. Blair Cobbs hasn't fought in 2 years or almost 2 years, and was never a top-ranked fighter, never was a world title challenger, let alone a world title holder. And should Blair Cobbs win this fight, it'll be a catapult for his career. And you'll never see Adrian Broner again. If Adrian Broner performs well and dominates this fight like he should, maybe Adrian Broner gets another crack at a world title. I don't know. But I'm picking Adrian Broner for this one. Joel just asked me, what's my prediction? I just gave it to you, Joel. I'm picking Broner. I don't think it's going to be that competitive at all. And I feel bad for Blair Cobbs because I like him so much. One thing, I have an email from my man Coach, and but before that, I want to remind everybody that I'll be a guest on Randy Gordon's show tomorrow. It'll be on Sirius Radio, Sirius XM, channel 156. They air every Monday and Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. It's funny. And so to make sure you tune in. It's funny, when we started 21 years ago, we started as a podcast, and our main goal was to get on the radio. That's all we wanted to do. We achieved that goal. We were on 33 radio stations throughout the U.S. and Canada in our heyday, and we were big with the podcast. At one point we had 250,000 podcast subscribers, which was huge. And then subsequently we started, simulcasting our show on YouTube, and we ended up on 3 television networks. We're still on one now, Jinico, which is offered through Roku and Android TV and some others, Fire Stick. It was great. But one of the channels I always wanted to get on was Sirius XM. And we were never able to do it. And my man Randy and Jerry Cooney, one of my favorite heavyweights, he let me down against Larry Holmes, but whatever, I'll forgive him. They've been doing it for a long time. I believe when I was speaking to Randy the other day, 18 or 19 years they've been doing it, which shocks me. It doesn't shock me that they're doing a show. They started, I believe Randy told me they started doing MMA, which I've never done. Don't know the sport, don't claim to know the sport. I've watched it, very few MMA fights I've watched, but it's funny how it goes. We kind of, stopped doing the show. When we did the morning show, it was great. That was on GFL, and that got us into the video, I think. And as it turns out, I think in retrospect, we probably should have never left the podcast scene, because there was a time when I just kicked it to the curb. We still had a podcast, but we weren't getting the numbers. And to this day, we don't get the numbers that we used to. I wish we would. But I'm hoping that our numbers come back. And if they don't get a little better soon, but anyway, my email from my man Coach, who's in the chat room right now. I'm not going to love it. It's not my show. It's definitely my man Randy Gordon and Jerry Cooney's show. I'm just going to be a guest on the show. So, and I don't know if they simulcast that video wise, but you can tune in. Definitely tune in if you have Sirius Radio, channel 156. His show starts at 3:00. It's a great show. Check it out. My man Randy Gordon. Randy's Reach from back in the old days, man. Randy's been around. He's a fellow New York Boxing Hall of Famer, and I'm going to be seeing him on September 15th. I can't wait. He's the one that's got me I'm starving, talking to Randy the other day, and he's telling me about how great the food is, and I'm starving already thinking about it, So I want you guys to come. I want you to come. You can meet Randy Gordon. You can meet a lot of the other guys. Yohan Guzman is somebody that is going to be there. I've never met him, and he's another inductee, and so is Rocky Frado. I hope Rocky remembers me because I was promoting fights when I first met Rocky. He had a couple of fighters on my cards that I was doing in Glens Falls, New York. And he's out of up near Buffalo. And I was so happy to see that he's going to be part of that event as well. But anyway, Coach says, "Hey, Billy C, you nailed it." Thank you. Thank you. He says, "You nailed it with the most, if not all 50-50 fights. But watching Nick Ball against Raymond Ford, I kept hearing your pre-fight analysis in my head. You nailed it, identifying the 5'2" Paul's underestimated talent, all in style and effort combined with a heart overshadowing his statue for, in my eyes, in your call, fight of the night. Win provoking thoughts of 4'10" former World Boxing Organization, World Boxing Union, and International Boxing Association flyweight world champion, covered on one of your early shows, Jacob Baby Jake Matalia. If you want to, Coach has a tendency to post. He's referring to our blast from the past, and one of the problems that I have, and have had over the last 21 years of doing this show, I can't tell you how much content is out there of us. There was a time when there's another YouTube channel that's Billy C Boxing, right? That's not mine, and that has tons of stuff on it. The Talking Boxing one is ours, right? The podcast, we're on several podcast distributors. Those are the ones are lost. And then of course YouTube and their conglomerate. That's why we're debuting on Rumble. Hopefully our stream is live on Rumble right now. I don't really know if it is. It says it is, but I can't watch it while I'm doing this. And that's why I've kind of leaning towards developing an audience on Rumble. So if you haven't subscribed, do me a favor, go to rumble.com and subscribe, man, and follow us on there. I appreciate that. And do that with everything. Subscribe to our podcast. You can get that wherever you listen to podcasts, and of course our YouTube channel. But the blast from the past, we had so many, and at one point I was starting to break them out, so that we could do them separately and just repost them. But there were years, literally years worth. Plus, we did heavyweight spotlight. Dave Wilcox we used to pick a heavyweight, and he would do a spotlight on him. And we used to have a segment called, what was it? It was called The Fight Before the Fight or something like that. And we used to take the fighters that were going up against each other, and it was called Head to Head. And we used to have them come on the show and basically talk smack to each other. And that was good. We had Keith DeSauer. We had so many guests on the show. I was writing them all down that were part of the show. Emily Harney, and I mentioned Dave Wilcox and Marty Mulcahy and Amy Green and, Joe Santoliquito. And, I can't even remember all of them. Of course, Dax Khan and Alex and, I'm going blank here. Mark Abrams was on the show for a while. And, it was just, we had so much fun. And one of the problems was, how do I document what's on the show? We never really pulled segments out, which we should have been doing all along. So now we have 21 years worth of content out there in Dataland with some great stuff. And I don't even know what days they were. I pulled some stuff for Tommy Morrison's widow recently because she needed some stuff. And I was able to locate them only because she gave me a date, and I was able to pull them. Plus all the early shows. Ron Lipton, he's another New York Boxing Hall of Famer. He was the first guy that came on the show with me, was a co-host. We did it out of a gym I owned called Snoop's Boxing Gym in Poughkeepsie, New York. My brother and myself owned that. And we thought it would be a way to promote the gym, and that's how this show started, and Jeremy C., the infamous Jeremy C., talking me into doing it, and we had so much good stuff that was lost because we didn't save it. We didn't think it was going to take off, so that's why I want you guys to come and join me for the New York Boxing Hall of Fame, September 15th, because if it wasn't for you guys, for all those viewers and listeners over the last 21 years, I wouldn't still be here looking all old and shit, but in any event, To close, Coach says also for many reasons, effort versus skills, and listening to Ford's corner. I'm sorry, versus Ball was a good fight for beginners to watch. Yeah, the only thing I'll say, thanks, Coach. The only thing I'll say about that is, Nick Ball was a former rugby player, and you could tell that the conditioning part. If he could fine tune, the problem is there's certain fighters you're not going to be able to fine tune. I mean, he's just an energizer bunny. As a fighter fighting him, I mean, I don't know who wants to fight this guy. I mean, how do you defend against a guy that is just throwing punches from every angle and doesn't get tired? I mean, he's young, so eventually he's gonna have to do something. But he's got a world title now. Maybe that was his goal. I don't know, but he's certainly an interesting fighter. Hey, we went over our time. I was talking too much, but I really hope that you guys enjoyed the show. And don't forget, subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to our YouTube page. Definitely go up and subscribe to our Rumble page, our new page up there, and like us and all that stuff. And tell your friends we need to get the viewership up again. And if not, then it doesn't make any sense. But hey, make sure you tune in next time. Same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.